everyone, I'm Saranol Bidimaano and our assigned topic is metacognitive and cognitive factors. So before that, I will present to you what is metacognition and cognitive strategies. So what is metacognition? Metacognition is the process of thinking about thinking. It is used in make decisions that maximize learning outcomes and help students meet their goals. Thinking is not just about what of learning but how. So in learning or when learning, stop consider those what you're learning, what you're trying to learn, what you know, how you're trying to learn it, how effective your strategies, what do you differently to improve to understand. Most people don't move beyond cognitive strategies when learning. Cognitive strategies are things test us you to the recall, analyze, interpret, and apply information. Metacognitions help us see which cognitive strategies need to occur so we're best prepared for a test. Show us what we need to do differently in order to be successful. There are metacognition process. First is the plan. Plan your approach to learning a topic, specifically how you digest the information. 2. Monitor your comprehension of the topic as you study with action such as practice test. 3. Evaluate the result of your learning when you finish the modify and approach as needed. These are steps can help learners see they use their time to recall, analyze, interpret, and apply information. In other words, metacognition helps students know that they really learned something. So what is look like an action? So as a learner, you have to contend strength and weaknesses, nature of tasks, strategies that you have available to you to accomplish the task and overcome any challenges. So let us step back and consider the basic question you can ask yourself before, during, and after studying to attend to the decision that you can make difference in your performance.
Good morning. The principle number 1 is the nature of learning process. The learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. So, what is the focus of the intentional process? I'll use 2 examples to illustrate my point. First, as a student, our learning is most effective when it is intentional, which means we are not forced to go to school or enroll in college by our mother or parents, especially as a future educators. Because in the other case, if we're just being forced to learn, it won't be effective. Second, our professors or teachers. Why is it that our learning in the classroom or here in Google Meet is mostly intentional? Because our teachers come to class with an end goal in mind. They already know the objectives of the lesson that we will be learning right after class, as well as the strategies and approaches that they can use to meet those objectives. And they have already designed the assessment task to determine whether you have learned the lesson or not. The characteristics of a successful learners are active, goal-directed, self-regulating, responsible for their own learning. What does it mean to say that the student is active? The students are active if they participate in the teaching-learning process. For example, during discussions, they listen attentively and take notes. During recitation, they share their answers, ideas, and thoughts about specific topics, and during activities, they collaborate with their classmates. In this way, students can be described as active. The next characteristic is goal-oriented. Being a goal-oriented successful learner entails setting some objectives in everything we do. For example, we go to class because we have certain objectives to achieve. There is a quote that says, "Beginning the end of mind," which means that in everything we do, we must consider what will happen at the end of each action or task that we do. Last characteristics of a successful learner is self-regulating. We must be in control of ourselves, understand our limitations and capabilities, and take personal responsibility for our own learning. They have the ability to track their progress, monitor and evaluate their learning strategies to see if they are effective. And they have the ability to stay focused on learning rather than being distracted by external factors such as peer pressure. Also, students and learners, we do not solely rely on what our teachers provide. As active learners, we are responsible for our own learning and must find ways to learn.
Good day everyone, I am Jonalyn M. Castro. Today, I will discuss the cognitive and metacognitive factors, principle number 2, goals of the learning process. The successful learner, over time and with support and instructional guidance, can create meaningful, coherent representation of knowledge. The strategic nature of learning requires students to be goal-directed, to construct useful representation of knowledge, and to acquire the thinking and learning strategies necessary for continued learning success across the lifespan. Students must generate and pursue personal relevant goals. Initially, students' short-term goals and learning may be sketchy in an area, but over time, their understanding can be refined by filling gaps, resolving inconsistencies, and deepening their understanding of the subject matter so that they can reach long-term goals. Educators can assist learning in creating meaningful learning goals that are consistent with both personal and educational aspiration and interest. Learning goals are intended purposes and desired achievement of particular courses, which generally identify the knowledge, skills, and capacities a student in that class should achieve. They have some example of learning goals: develop communication skills, negotiation skills, ethics and social responsibility, teamwork and flexibility, reasoning and making good judgment, critical thinking and problem solving, analytical thinking, and lastly, creative thinking. Why goals of the learning process are important? Because learning goals allows you and your student to focus on what they are supposed to learn. When learning goals are explicit, they will guide your student decision on where to focus effort, illuminate what they are to take from a given task.
Before I start, let me first introduce myself. I am Jane Del Carmen, and I am here to discuss to you the construction of knowledge. A successful learner can link information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. The question is, bakit nga ba mahalaga ito? Students learn by connecting new knowledge and concepts that already know, thereby constructing new meanings. Lumalawak at lumalalim ang kaalaman o ideya habang patuloy na gumagawa ang mga estudyante ng paraan, gumagawa ng mix sa pagitan ng bagong impormasyon at kaalaman base sa kanilang karanasan. Research suggests that students connect knowledge most effectively in active social classrooms, where they negotiate understanding through interactions and varied approaches. Educators can assist learners in acquiring and integrating knowledge by a number of strategies that have been shown production of knowledge is fostered by learners' development of self-regulation and self-awareness. Thus, we cannot merely support learners in learning relevant skills and information. We must also provide tools and contexts in which they develop their learning ability to manage their own learning process. When they become aware of understanding and knowledge-making processes, they will no longer be dependent on trainers to further initiate their learning processes.
Good morning everyone, I am Estel C. De La Cruz and I am here to discuss the strategic thinking. When we hear strategic thinking, it is a mental or thinking process applied by individual to achieve their goal or set of goals. As learner, we need to be more strategic in terms of having a difficult situation, so we need to be more focused and specific in the outcomes to the things needed to be solved or addressed. To be more successful, we need to understand, use, and apply different learning and thinking style to the unusual or difficult situation. So, where you could distinguish and think of the best solution to overcome challenges in achieving their set of goals.
And also in your normal learning challenges, which is the access, struggling to engage in online learning those with no stable internet access. So we always bear in mind the philosophy of City College to create the possibilities.
Good day, I am Shane M. Dancel, and I am going to discuss the fifth principle, which is thinking about thinking, or this is what we call metacognition. When we say thinking about thinking, it is a higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations, facilitate creative and critical thinking. In this principle, the learners can analyze tasks, set goals, reflect on how they think and learn, and they must have the ability to monitor their own learning. Also, the learner should assess their learning strategies if it is effective or not. And if it's not effective, then you should think an alternative strategy that will help you to develop your learnings. In other words, this principle is about assessing the effectiveness of your strategies and having self-reflection on your learnings. Here's a short video for you to have a better understanding about this principle.
We know that metacognition is vital for learning. It's what happens when we analyze tasks, set up goals, implement strategies, and reflect on what we're learning. But how does metacognition actually work? Well, the authors of How Learning Works describe it as a cycle. It starts with the ability to assess the task at hand. Here, students have a clear picture of what they need to accomplish. And next, they evaluate their own strengths and weaknesses. Afterward, the students plan out their approach. Note that it does not have to be a detailed plan. In some cases, students might visualize what they need to accomplish and how they will get there. Students then take action and apply the strategies and monitor their progress, which leads to the next phase where they reflect on their learning and adjust their approach. Here, they might determine new strategies that ultimately lead back to a reassessment of the task. This cycle can happen rapidly or over a long stretch of time. In some cases, it can feel so automatic it almost seems invisible. And yet, it is vital for learning. When students have strong metacognition skills, they are more likely to succeed in college, in their careers, and in lifelong learning.
That's all for the fifth principle. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something.
Principle number 6, learning of context. First, what is learning context? Learning context is defined as a situation in which something is learned or understood. A situation that can be in fact how something is learned or what is taught. The importance of learning context. If we choose the right context, the learner's brain will learn to recognize the trigger condition for the ability and the elements that can change without affecting the requirements to execute. This also includes situations that suggest how to adapt the skills to different situations where it's still relevant. Learning is influenced by environment factors, including culture, technology, and instructional practices. For example, learning context is the external learning environment, including the quality of equipment and facilities and the training level of the teachers.